What's the easiest way to mic up a guitar cab? And what's the best microphone for the job? All of that after this intro. Hello and welcome to another video. My name is Elmo J. Karjalainen and you can call me this guy if that's tricky to pronounce. It's good to have you along. The setting is a bit different if you're familiar with the channel. We're in the control room of our studio, which is actually our old studio, so we're moving house. By the time you see this, we'll already be in a new studio. But I wanted to make a quick video talking about microphones and miking up a guitar cab because I have my gear set up for actual proper recording, because I'm recording some material for Seagrave. Seagrave is a band I play in. If you don't know us, check us out. There's a link in the description. So, first of all, I'm going to be trying out 4 different microphones for the job at hand. The first one is clearly very different. It's this one. It's the AKG C414, which you've seen me use a bunch in my videos. And I've used this microphone for quite some time. And it's brilliant. And it's much more expensive than the 3 other microphones in the video, which are the trusty old 57 by Shure, the Sennheiser E609, and the Lewitt MTP44DM. I can't remember the letters of all of these. This one is totally new to me. I've used the Sennheiser previously quite a lot, and I've also used the Shure. Who hasn't? Basically, if you play guitar, you mic up a guitar cab somewhere, chances are someone is going to be using an SM57. Now, I'll be comparing these 4 microphones to see which one is actually the best for the job. The SM57 is kind of the staple. Everyone uses it. The E69 is something also very popular. E69, E609. And the Lewitt is kind of a newer addition. Yngwie Malmsteen likes this, so we'll see what it's like. Is it any good? Yngwie talks, we listen. But before I get to the actual comparison, I wanted to talk about the easiest way to actually mic up a guitar cab or record a guitar. You can do this at loud volumes, you can do this at low volumes, any volume basically, any cab, if you have a combo or any cab, you can do this with anything. And that's just the very simple and effective, tried and tested method of close miking with one mic. The benefits are enormous. First of all, it's very simple, and simple speeds up workflow, which can be a good thing, especially for someone like me who likes a faster workflow. You don't get phase issues like you might if you have multiple microphones. It's cheap. You only have to use one microphone, and the microphones are relatively cheap. At least the 3 that I'm testing, the AKG is much more expensive. So you can get away with this, or get away is the wrong word. You can get a great recording for a low budget, and it can be used on anything. And it can be used regardless of the space you have, because some other miking techniques require certain types of spaces. So what you want to do is you want to mic up the speaker. So if you're using a 4x12, one way is to use a flashlight and just check out where the speaker is under the kind of the grill or the cloth, and this is the way you do it. Now, I'm not going to demonstrate on the cab that I have because the grill or the whatever the front cover thing is extremely difficult to see through. So it'll just be me crawling around on all 4s in front of a camera. But yeah, you'll get the picture. I just show it to you with a roll of tape. You can imagine that this is the speaker, and here we have the microphone. So you place, it's called close miking, so you place the microphone very close to the speaker, basically as close as possible. Some people almost have it touching the front grille of the cab. I kind of keep a small distance, maybe a finger, maybe even 2 fingers when I do this. And then you search for the sweet spot. So if you have a 4x12 cab, you pick one of the speakers, and it might be a good idea to test out which speaker sounds the best, because they sound different, or at least they can sound different, especially if you have different speakers. So you select the best speaker available, and then you mic it. Now, you don't want to be too far kind of to the side, but you don't want to be too far or smack bang in the middle either, because in the middle you'll get a really annoying kind of buzzy sound, although I have seen some people record guitar this way as well, and it can work for some stuff, especially if you're blending microphones. But if you're using just one microphone, you want to hit a kind of sweet spot. So this will be kind of microphone specific and also depend on the speaker that you have and so on. So it really, really pays to experiment a bit. Use a fair bit of time to do this, because that will mean that it'll be easier to mix, because you don't have to correct issues. Getting it right before you record, that will save you so much time. The end result will be so much better. So do spend some time searching for the right spot. When you have the right spot, mark it out with tape, like I have in this picture, because that, in case you have to move the microphone at some point for something, or someone comes along and kind of borrows the microphone, at least you can get it back where it was. So measure how far it is, maybe one finger, maybe two, and mark out with tape. This goes here. So I've marked out the cab with tape so that I get all these microphones in the same spot, so that we can properly compare them. Okay, so next it's time to get going, trying out the different microphones. These have slightly different polar patterns, and the polar pattern can be really important when considering what kind of mic to use. The Lewitt and the Shure both have a cardioid polar pattern. At least with the Shure, it's fairly tight, so it's very sensitive to where you point it. The Sennheiser E609 has a hypercardioid polar pattern, which is kind of similar to the cardioid, except that it also picks up a bit from the back. So that should be a slightly different type of sound. And then the AKG, you can set that to whichever polar pattern you want. I have it set to cardioid for this, so it should be roughly the same as the Lewitt and the Shure, at least in theory. So I'll just get these hooked up, at least one of them, and we'll start playing a bit. Right, so here we go. Let's start with the SM57. Oh, and before I get going, what else do I have here? I have a Fender Yngwie Malmsteen Strat with DiMarzio pickups going into an Yngwie Malmsteen overdrive. I have a noise gate. I have the Marshall full blast going into the cab and nothing in the loop. So that's about it. Okay, next up is the Lewitt, which is the favorite of Mr. Yngwie J. Malmsteen. In all honesty, I have to say his modern or new recordings, they sound absolutely terrible, but I don't think that's the fault of the microphone. But let's not get into all that. Okay, so next is the Sennheiser E609. Now this is a bit different because it's shaped differently, so it can be difficult to position in the same way and difficult to know if it's positioned in exactly the same way as the two previous ones. On the plus side, if you have one of these, I mean, it's so easy to just dangle in front of a cab if you're playing live, for instance. So you don't even necessarily need a stand for all applications. So that's a good bonus kind of thing. But anyway, here's the Sennheiser E609 with roughly the same kind of rubbish being played by me. Okay, so now I've changed to the AKG C414 and I've also tuned my guitar. So the AKG is a bit different. As you can see in the picture, it has a shock mount, which means you cannot actually get it as close as the other microphones unless you use a different kind of adapter. But I decided to use the shock mount, so it's 3 fingers away. That'll impact a bit, not too much. And it's a totally different kind of beast anyway to the other microphones, more out of curiosity. I'll just shut up and play a bit. Here's the 414. So, what's the verdict? Well, I've listened back to what I played, and it's a tough one. What I can say is that the Lewitt and the AKG are clearly the loudest, despite the AKG having a minus 18 dB pad, which I was using, or was it 16? I've forgotten, but anyway, it has a pad. The Sennheiser was the quietest of the bunch. I could live with any one of these microphones for close miking. And the way I would use the AKG would not be to close mic, if you want to know a bit more about that in a second. But the ones I'm leaning toward are the Sennheiser and the Lewitt, but there's not a lot in it. But the reason is that, especially the Sennheiser, it's not as sensitive to where you point it as the SM57. You can basically hang it anywhere. So if you're gigging as well and just want to bring that microphone with you, it works brilliantly. I've used that for ages, and I've had trouble with SM57s where the sound guy has pointed it slightly weirdly and it sounded like crap out to front of house. I know because I've recorded some of those gigs, and I've never had that problem with the Sennheiser. Might have been that it's been a Sennheiser E606 which has a cardioid polar pattern as well, but it's not as kind of sensitive to where you point it, at least in my experience. The Lewitt is a new one for me, so I'm not entirely sure. I like the sound of it, but it's a bit darker, actually, and yeah, the Shure is a bit brighter than the other ones, apart from the AKG, which is totally, it's different. Let's just leave it at that. But if you're on the market for a kind of budget-friendly guitar mic, you can mic up a cab with, any one of these three will do. I think the Shure is the cheapest, but it's not a lot. There's not a lot in it, and you can probably get second-hand Shures and Sennheisers quite easily. The Lewitt is a bit more tricky. Actually, it might even be tricky to get new in the States. I'm not entirely sure. In Europe, you can get it new, and it's not a lot more expensive than the Shure or the Sennheiser. Now, the AKG, that's a different type of thing because it has the polar pattern thing, so you can use it for a whole variety of different things. I've actually not close mic'd my album recordings in, well, ages. I've used the 414 for as long as I've had it, and if you want to know how I've been using it and how I plan to use it in the future, because that's going to change, you can check out my Guitar Academy. The link is in the description, where I'll have a video about how I mic up a guitar cabinet, because I don't close mic apart from when I make my YouTube videos, because that's just the easiest way to do stuff. So if you want to watch more of my lesson videos, there's a playlist here somewhere. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please leave a comment, subscribe if you haven't already, hit that bell notification and the thumb as well. And I hope to see you in another one. Support me on Patreon as well. So take care. Goodbye.